It's 2 years old. It still works.
Yeah, all right.
It's got the little.
Relax, folks.
Thank you.
So we have concluded our executive session and we're going to continue now with our regular board meeting. Moving on to the good of the cause. Ms. Karen, do we have any emails?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the information for the public, and the information in there just discusses that there's 2 board seats up this year for anyone that has an interest. Next item it will be the report section, and our first item is the budget performance report. And Mr. Dana.
Okay, so you have your 4-page documents that I provided you. No real material change there other than, we've spent a little more money, we brought in a little more revenue. Quickly to go through this month-end revenue overview. Really to highlight at the bottom is the fact that we brought in a little 18.6% more in revenue this year than we did at this time last year, and it shows what it's driven by from the sources of $20,000. It's really that, but in all, we're looking at when I looked at today, we're sitting at about $600,000, a little over $600,000 more in revenue that we brought in by this point last year. So, and that's as of today. So we're still trending, the revenue sources, and I've said this, in most meetings, that's pretty consistent. The state aid starts dribbling in. Our property taxes have come in, all of that's been earmarked. Actually, we'll get our last remaining amount. It won't really be seen in the reports because we book it as we already book it as revenue, even though technically it hasn't come in. We got a check coming April 1st from the county for a little over $1 million. That's what was outstanding from our property taxes, and that's normal. That's what happens after early November, when it's all done. We send the list to the county. They then levy it on their taxes there. They go after the delinquency in terms of payments, and then they make us whole every April. So. But that's already been booked as a receivable because
You're gonna get
we're exactly. We're going to get it, so it's always been booked as a receivable. So we won't see any material change in that, even though we are physically getting $1 million. The next page, we get the month-end expense. You can see there that is showing a nearly 49% increase in expenses this year as opposed to last year. Some $657,000, and you're like, oh my goodness, why is that the case? Because I think we had that last month too, where it was like, oh my goodness. So I did a little digging in, and really what it came down to is this year we made 2 payments to our health consortium in February, where last year we made a payment of like $30,000. So that's really what's driving it is it's the timing. I've said a lot of times that it's timing when we make payments, when we get revenue and all that. So that's really what's driving that is we made 2 payments, and that's all about when it came in and all that. But we pay monthly invoices to BOCES, as you see, with outstanding checks. So that's not an unusual. I mean, that looks, oh my goodness, but when I looked at today, we have a difference of about $350,000 more in expenses this year as opposed to last year. So that is on trend. We have a 3% increase in the budget this year versus last year. So the next 2 pages are just kind of year to date. It kind of shows you where it is. The next 3rd page is the revenue. It also kind of aligns with the cash flow document that I provided you as well. This gives you a breakdown as to where the revenue is coming from. The property taxes, our interest and earnings, and all that. As I looked at our interest and earnings, which doesn't necessarily show here, we're sitting at close to over $400,000 in interest this year alone.
Wow.
We budgeted $35,000. We're probably looking at by June, that could be about $600,000. It decreases as the year goes on because come November, we have most of our property taxes that we then put into NICLAS. So it's generating some good returns. But as the year progresses, we pull from that to pay our bills. So the return will decrease as we're pulling money out of it to pay for our daily expenses. And then the last page is really just the year to date in terms of expenses. And you can see that it's really, at the very end, 2% more than the amount spent last year at this time. We're trending right where we budgeted, we budgeted a little over 3%. So we're trending where we budgeted, we're spending a little more because we budgeted for a little more. Right.
So let me ask you, Dan, where do we see what we pay the BOCES every year?
So it will fall in when you look at expenses.
Yeah.
It would be under benefits. Because we pay the health consortium.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't say FEA, it's not BOCES directly, but they run it for us. So we send the check to BOCES, but the the health consortium is its own entity. BOCES, we basically contract with BOCES to oversee it. Yeah. The consortium.
Or the insurance piece?
Yes. So they manage all of the treasury reports and the financing, and the paying of the bills for the health insurance.
So we pay them.
But we send the check to FEH Health Consortium.
Right.
BOCES is the one that processes it.
But in terms of the budget of BOCES.
So then with the other expenses there would be under contractual
Okay.
supplies.
Yeah.
That's where the BOCES is because we have the administrative charge
Yeah.
and the programming components. That's the category they will fall under.
Do we know what percentage of the total budget comes from us?
We can find out because it is based off of
Our
water usage and all that. If you look at it like the proposed admin budget, they're looking at a little over 2% increase for next year.
Mm-hmm.
One of the districts is a 9% increase.
Got it.
So really, the size of the district
Sure.
determines.
I'm just curious what it is.
Yes.
And then the last question is, what's the management structure of BOCES? Is there?
John, you want to weigh in?
If you read the BOCES admin report, just lists the admin staff, there's 14 people
Okay.
there. Half of whom are less than a half FTE, and half of the half is less than a quarter FTE. So there's a lot of 10.1, 0.15.
Okay.
And I asked myself, how can you possibly efficiently run an operation like that without even getting into the turnover?
Right. What I know is they have a superintendent, they have 2 assistant superintendents, but some of that, as John's saying, is some of their salary comes from programs, some comes admin. They're not 100% in the admin budget. And we had
Got
this
it.
discussion
But
last
do we
year.
have any voice at all?
Our voice, as they say, we vote with our feet when it comes
I got it.
to the program side, which is the majority of both of the expenses.
At least we get to decide that.
We determine participation in those.
Okay.
And then, the admin side, which is just the administration of their organization, we are one of, how many was it?
9,
Nine,
10.
nine component districts
Yeah.
that has a vote to determine if the BOCES admin budget will be passed each
I
year.
got it.
So our aid rate compared to every others is far inferior. And so
So
our
it's not really
incentivization
vote.
to spend dollars and expect a high return is far lower than any other district in the
Right.
region.
But in my previous round on the board, we used to get a BOCES book that had their whole budget. Their program budget, their capital budget, their admin, and you could parse out how much we paid for programs of the total, or how much we paid of the admin. This time, we only have, that I know of, the admin piece.
Well, that one spreadsheet that you got and you shared with me, you could kind of determine the total admin budget because it does break down what each component school is paying. The program side has not been,
Established yet.
Established,
Yeah,
okay.
we are, and you'll see it in our budget calendar. We're expecting the BOCES program budget a week ago.
I got it.
So once we get that, for our next meeting, we'll know.
Yeah.
Just as a heads up, when we get to the vote on the admin budget, I will have some remarks.
No, I have questions. These are remarks.
That's right.
Yeah.
any other questions about the budget performance report? There's really, I mean, there's nothing
Thank you,
alarming in
Dale.
this
Yeah,
or
I
anything
was-
like that.
I got us on kind of rabbit hole.
No.
Thanks, Dana. Treasurer's report? please?
Treasury reports, it's kind of the same as last year, I mean, last month, no real changes there, material changes. You can see at this point, our cash in versus cash out is more cash out than cash in, but that is, as we've said, is expected. Because of where most of our revenue comes from. We have a little more than $2 million go out and about $152,000 go in. But on the right-hand side, you can see under the NBT Bank and nine class, this is where we keep all of our reserve funds. So you can see that we still have about $15 million in our reserves fund between the ICS and nine class. And that's generating a little over 5% rate of return from both.
That's nice.
Whereas most of that you can see is almost 11, well, between the unrestricted and reserves, we have just over $13 million in nine class. That is generating of that
Yeah.
rate of return.
That's
So
great.
about $417,000 in outstanding checks, and that's nothing really unusual. The big driver there, $379,000 in outstanding check. If I had to guess, and you guys could guess equally, it's BOCES. And a lot of times that's about when we make payments, and then it sits in their office and gets processed at their time and their schedule and all that. So, but all said and done, I mean, our treasury report, I mean, we're still in a very good funding.
What's the premier coach? Is that the trip to Washington?
Has to be.
Yes, yep, very much so. Yeah, we're starting to, make payments on that. So again, that probably went out at the end of February. We had a warrant, so that's why it's still out. It was outstanding when Betsy has the reconciliation. She's looking as of the end of the month. And we probably made payments at the very end of February.
Does the investment return on the money we receive from Lucy cover it every year?
Yes, yeah, basically they just give us, I mean, they gotta keep,
Yeah.
the principal, and
Yeah.
we get whatever the rate of return is. It's usually in the low to mid $40,000. It covers the cost and all that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What a wonderful gift. Yeah.
Great experience for the kids.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
Going to move on now and let Dana and Tim chat with us about the bus discussion, I think, or not.
That is right, yep.
So really what we can do here is kind of twofold, because you'll see later on down under action items, we have the bus proposition resolution. And I don't see the three choices there.
They're under
They're
the,
there.
bus discussion.
Bus
Number
discussion,
five,
okay,
state.
so they're in the
Number 5.
discussion portion.
Yeah.
So really what
And
it
I'm
comes
gonna
down
copy
to is,
paste it.
discussion is
Yeah, I like it.
three choices here. Option A, is what we've been doing, which is the leasing. And you see here, it's about $35,000, or $35,000, per bus. So you're looking at about $106,000 that we would be spending, each year on just these three buses for a period of 5 years. This is the process that we've been doing. They go back, they go back after 5 years. We get state aid on it, whether it's a lease or a purchase. The interest rate there on the lease is like almost 6%.
It's the internal rate, yeah.
Yeah, we've been using Santander Leasing Company for years for our buses.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's right now fixed through August. It's like 5.7, 5.8%, on that. Option B is, purchasing the buses by way of a bond. So what I understand, because never done this
Yeah.
before, is
Yeah.
you bond it out. And then you don't go to the bank to get a loan, you bond it out. We use fiscal advisors, so we can bond it out for a 5-year period. Well, that costs a little more. When you look at that, it's about $122,000 a year that we would be paying for 5 years. So that's $516,000 for those 3 buses, ends up being $580,000 that we would be paying because of the interest that we have to pay. But at the end of the 5 years, they're ours. We own them, they're not going back. I think we lease because every 5 years we're getting new buses. They're always under warranty. We don't have to worry about any major repairs because they're all under warranty. Anything major we send off and doesn't really cost us anything when we lease it. Same thing here was for the first 5 years, we would have that same warranty. But after we own them after year 5, any major things, it's on us. So there's always that potential of having some larger expenses after we take complete ownership and we've paid them off.
Let me ask you a question. So do we know what the value of the bus may be after 5 years? And we can use that value to roll it into purchasing another bus?
Generally speaking, what I've found is recently is you can get anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 per bus.
That sounds awfully low to me.
Yeah, it all depends on how long we keep them.
Yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
5 years. So is there some analysis, some vendor that can give us that analysis? In other words, there must be a market information available for how much a bus is worth, a certain mileage after 5 years.
It's usually anybody that leases a vehicle, they always tell you what the residual.
Well, that's
payment-
different. That's a residual on a lease. That's completely different than the market value of a bus after 5
Like
years
Tony
with so many miles on it.
Right.
On the
Here's the
bus,
other thing.
right?
Where's the electric bus come into this? If we buy 2 gas-powered buses and this
We have
whole,
2 gas-powered buses.
then are we stuck with 2 gas-powered buses if this electric thing ever goes through?
Stuck? No, we get stuck if it's EVs. Yes, what we want.
If you read that proposition and dig into it,
Yeah.
if you have a gas-powered fleet,
That's it.
when that is infected,
Then you have to keep
if it's
them.
infected or
Affected.
affected, wow,
Yeah.
you don't have to buy electric
That's
buses.
right.
Okay, okay.
So you have a gas-powered fleet.
Okay.
You can phase out
Put
your
a couple
existing.
100,000 miles on
Okay.
the
From
bus.
my perspective, I don't want to make any decisions based upon what we think is going to happen with electric bus
We do the right thing for what.
at all.
So, right, so, yeah, right, so as Ryan was just saying is, we just, come 2027, we can no longer purchase gas-powered buses.
You can use your existing ones.
We could have a whole fleet of gas and that's fine, they're not gonna tell us to get rid of them, we just can't have access to buying them any longer.
And hopefully before 2027, somebody actually smartens up
Right.
and realizes that the Adirondacks is not
And
a
the
place for
pendulum is
electric bus.
is moving in that direction.
Yeah, I'm sure that's
So-
real.
so-
I doubt that-
so-
Would it be strategic to do just a 3-year period if it's 2027? To lease just for 3 years, get rid of it, release again and have another gas-powered vehicle in your possession?
I want to look at the numbers, see if it's more cost effective to buy versus lease.
Right.
That's what I'd like to see.
So,
This doesn't really give me any details.
right, so I'm on Auction International right now, we use them, when
Yeah.
we sell things, buses here. They have a 2017, they call it a Thomas 72 bus.
Here we go.
Current bid is $6,100.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're talking a 7-year-old bus,
7 years.
7 years, and this does not look like it was a 35 passenger. So we typically have 60 passengers.
Yeah,
So if you
that's
look at it, I can't see anything on their website in terms of
5 years.
bigger. That's the most recent one is 2017. So you're really looking at it, at least here, because I know a lot of school districts use Auction International.
Mhm.
I'm seeing 2012, 2006. So there isn't a lot of turnover. Schools that keep them are keeping them for 10+ years.
Okay.
So
So then-
really, yeah, when you're
yeah.
looking at it, I mean, again, it goes back to, we're probably looking at it, if we're looking at it, holding it for 10 years, the value of that bus in 10 years is probably going to be, I would say, $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah, but by the same token, there's no payments on it after 5 years.
Correct.
So,
Right, no
so that's an
payment.
analysis that's available, a financial analysis. I'd like to see it analyzed. I mean,
If you crunch the numbers on these 3 options, like,
Yeah.
is there one in particular that you're favoring, either of you?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, because option 3 is we buy it outright by using our fund balance. which school districts you do that, where you're not making any payments, you're not paying any
It's
interest.
actually less than.
Yeah, it's less, yeah, so you're paying that, you're spending less, with it. The potential downside there with using our fund balance is with the uncertainty with the states, you're using the fund balance. And with the uncertainty of the state, with where the aid is, even if they restore it to hold harmless, the writing is on the wall that they want to revisit the formula for the state aid. And, maybe not this year, but maybe in 3 years, 4 years, once they do a review and it gets adjusted, we could see a loss in aid in 3 years, 4 years anyway, but maybe they implement that loss over several years, not in a 1-year cycle. So that the downside to buying upfront is if we need that fund balance in a couple of years, which, I projected out that we will be, based off of current
Yeah, yeah,
numbers, we're going to need it over the next 3-4 years. Even if the state restores the funding and it stays at zero in terms of present dollars, we're gonna need that anyway.
Yes.
As the way, in terms of how our budget is currently built. I mean, I showed, we talked about it, 7% of our revenue is appropriated fund balance. That's not sustainable. If we did 7% every
It'd
year,
be gone.
it would be gone in
Yeah.
3 years.
I get that.
Dana, is there any way on option C, if, I don't know if you were toying with that idea or not, that you could do, instead of doing like an all or nothing, that you do a portion of that, maybe you purchase one of the buses and lease the other two, or
You can do.
I don't know, maybe that's too complicated, I don't know, but if you're looking to try to save
Yes,
some
you
money
can- you
without
can-
killing the fund balance.
You can do all of that. I mean, you could say we want to buy one outright and two, and it's however the proposition is written. So that's where you're going to get into, and you might be confusing where you might have one proposition that's talking about using unassigned fund balance
Right.
versus one bus, but then you have a second proposition for the voters
No, so
that
it
talks
could be
about
confusing.
leasing or purchasing 2 buses, and they're going, why do you need, this?
Yeah.
I would think just for ease, it's one method. Our state aid, will be the same no matter what. We get 6.5% on these current buses. We would get over a 5-year period, a little over $36,000 from state aid. But it kind of goes back to your question, Ron, in terms of looking at the analysis. For us, we will never make back, what we are purchasing these buses for. There are districts that they end up breaking even or making a little money because of between their aid ratio and then what they sell the bus back. They end up, it costs them nothing over that 5-year period because of what they're getting from the state. Well, that's not us.
That's not.
That's not us. I mean, in the best case scenario, if we purchase these outright, we're spending $60,000 more, in interest. Take away the state aid, so that's about $30,000 more in interest. We sell them,
That's the issue.
Yeah.
What are they worth at the fund?
Right,
That's the
which
issue.
I am not seeing
Well,
a bus
which I
that
don't
is
have the answer
comparable.
to.
Yes.
So let me attempt to speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
Because in the north end where I hail from, this is the maneuver is to purchase and then like they install wash bays to ensure desalination to retain the value for maximum. So what I would say is just imagine that we buy these, let's say we go option B, which I'm a bit favorable to.
Me too.
But if we go option B, okay, and Dana, if we go option B, what's roughly the difference that we would pay over a 5-year period to go option B versus option A? How much money are we talking?
So option A, which is leasing, we're paying about $105,000 versus $122,000.
Okay, so what, $17,000 difference?
Yes.
Okay,
Per year.
so let's, so you over
Over
per
5.
year, 17 times 5, is that what we're saying, Dana?
Yes,
Okay.
because about $122,000.
85. 5 years.
So, but that's, the first one is predicated on 5 years of exclusive usage and then buying back into that system at the same rate. I can say confidently, coming from a former district that had an 8-year rotation of buses, that all you need to do is go past 5 years for 1 year and you've already recouped beyond what the value of the asset is, even if you don't sell them.
Exactly.
So if for us, if we were to buy these and then not phase them out for 6 years, that last year we're paying nothing, that's already more than the difference between the two.
Right.
So
Agreed.
I think the outright buyout is too risky at this point in time.
Fair enough.
Because the fund balance. we
I don't
used
use
to-
fund balance.
No, me either.
Literally, I do not want to use fund balance. I agree with
Well,
you.
And some
Yeah.
catastrophe happened 1 year after you
To
bought
me,
the buses. you're
I don't even need
screwed.
to hear the argument.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. I don't want to do the fund balance.
No.
period.
When you look at it with option B in terms of purchasing, and one of the things we talked about is, goes back to the EV discussion. That it sets us up to have a hybrid fleet, because if the mandate stays, we will have, over the next couple of years, we will purchase enough buses so that we would have, half our fleet will be gas. And then come 2027, we start buying the EV buses. And we would use our gas powered to do our longer trips and use our EV buses to do our around town trips or our daily runs until the technology catches up. So at this point, that's all we can go off of. And that's sort of like, you know, I've talked about this, is that's kind of the approach that a number of districts are looking at as the 2020 comes, is just that, a hybrid approach so that they're not being stuck on it. Malone, I see, is getting 4 EV buses. It was just in the Malone Telegram today.
And they were a recipient of a federal
Right.
grant based on.
They're on the opposite end of what we are in terms of age ratio.
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Malone gets probably a little over 80% in state aid. So for them, with the federal grants, they're a high needs district. They're gonna get more of that bus covered than we would.
So if we buy the buses and keep them 1 year longer than a lease, we come out ahead.
Right.
We know that we're putting 30,000 miles on these buses. We know they're in good order, so that's already favorable. And then you think about all the unknowns. We could be in a situation where he who has outright control of gas-powered buses has jokers in the deck.
Right.
And so to have exclusive control of those things in an unknown period, I think could be beneficial, because like either way we win in that, like if that allows us to monetize the value of the rare buses that we can sell because EVs are out there. And so used buses, there might be a market for them that increases the price, or alternatively, say they're not an option, and then we just ride them out into the sunset and
Right.
recoup the asset by not buying things over time. So either way, we kind of win.
And one of the things, I mean, one of the,
I agree.
the X factor costs with the purchases is when you get into the year 7, year 8, transmission goes and all that, and now you're looking at a $10,000-$15,000 repair that isn't necessarily budgeted. But in the unknown, of buying an EV bus, which is $400,000 versus $160,000.
Battery.
I didn't know
Exactly.
these. Yeah. I want to talk about A and B.
Yeah.
But what I can also do to inform our discussion, is I will reach out in the next couple of days to my regional colleagues, find out what they're getting on their buses based on the mileage. And we can get some trend information. to
When I
see
spoke to
the back end.
the Russian superintendent, he's the one that I usually speak to a lot with buses. He was getting, for his buses, he was keeping them 7, 8 years. He was getting what I was talking about.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
$20,000 to $22,000.
But 8 years is not 6.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I get that number from,
Right.
is from Rushton superintendent, who we have extensive
So
conversations.
what is our
with.
ability to maintain buses? Do we have a mechanic? How does that work? In the old days, we did.
We have a mechanic
Okay.
and we have a garage.
Okay.
And I don't know, I don't want to keep bringing this up, but the frequency by which these buses are washed is hugely important to maintenance of the asset.
Agreed.
It's a massive difference. So we don't have a wash bay per se, right, Dana? We have the ability to wash the buses, but I don't know the frequency by which that happens.
I think they wash them at least once a week.
Okay.
They're supposed to wash them, clean them. They wash them
the salt,
inside
yeah.
they wash them inside the garage, so they do have a wash bay, if you will. So one of the
I got it.
sections, has it, but I would say they're probably pulling the buses in on a weekly basis
Okay.
to wash
Okay.
them.
Good.
That's good. So, are we trying to decide what we're gonna do for a ballot issue?
That's right. We need to go forth to the voters to say, by what means will we acquire these buses? Through a lease or through an installment purchase bond?
Can we just give them A and B? Do we have to give them C?
Well,
No, we're gonna
We give them
choose.
one.
It's up to-
We
it's up
give
to-
them one.
Yeah.
this board has to determine.
Yes,
So
you
you
guys,
don't get
I think we need to move on this now.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
You know, I
need to
think
make a
if-
decision.
And Tim and I think we're definitely in agreement that option B is probably looking at
I
the
feel very
future.
strongly about option B.
Yeah. Right. We have majority vote.
Vote on that?
Well,
I'm
you,
gonna move,
she will now modify that for the resolution,
yes.
and then
Down
you'll have an
below.
opportunity.
I think what's frustrating to me is that state lawmakers aren't thinking with their head, they're not using common sense. And now we as a board have to sit back and drop back and figure out how we keep our children safe, because that's actually what we're trying to do. Trying to
That's
keep our
exactly what we're
children
doing.
safe to and from school.
That's
An
right.
electric bus is not gonna do that. I will never be a fan of an electric bus. I will never vote yes to buy an electric bus. I'm saying that publicly right now. Our children need to be safe, and it's either gonna be in a gas.
You're
or
an
diesel
ally
bus.
with that.
So
Look
I
how
hope
much
that-
time the board has spent talking about buses.
I just hope the taxpayers realize we're doing this to keep our children safe. That's what it comes.
All righty then.
I don't know, to make a motion, I move option B.
What we're going to
Yeah,
do is.
So there's
we're
no motion on this, it's
Okay.
just,
under action.
so,
now.
right, so what I did was I took the, option B, I copy pasted it into 8B.
Oh, okay, okay.
So then you'll go and, when you
Ah.
get down there, you'll vote.
I understand.
Right, yes.
That was fun.
I didn't take it off below, I just didn't take it off below.
Yeah, you took it off.
All righty, let's move on to Tim's superintendent report, please.
Alright. So March Madness is here, people. And I am not talking color pencil.
We'll go next.
All right.
Me too.
It is Read Across America Month, as we all know, thanks to our board proclamation earlier in the month celebrating our promotion of literacy. And there's been quite a bit of competition going on at the elementary school. The March Madness bracket for most beloved children's book has been a real heated competition at the elementary school. Starting off with 16 books that students are exposed to in different grade levels, thanks to our wonderful librarian, Ms. Haney, who we'll be thanking later in the meeting as part of our salute to our librarians for National Librarian Appreciation. But those 16 books have been whittled down to the final two, people. It's Duke and UNC right now. And I decided to put in there for the board's pleasure at their convenience, a read aloud of both of those stories. Now, the second, I should say, I was more familiar with, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, as told by the wolf, is an epic tale of satire that I have appreciated for long. But until today, when Karen looked in my office and said, "Are you watching a cartoon?" That I had no exposure to. Something's wrong, a bear, a hare, and some underwear. Which is admittedly the best 13 minutes you'll spend for some time just watching this story. It's hysterical
I'm gonna
and
watch it
absolutely
tonight.
adorable. So this is the final week of March Madness, but just look at the Tennessees, Arkansas, some of the big teams that have been taken out here. Where the wild things
Yeah.
are.
what's that?
I mean, that's
Not even the
Lori
chance that
Sendak
we
just
need
done.
balls.
All right, the snowy day. Nope. Stregonona and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs all have fallen to the might of Three Little Pigs
Wow.
and bear hair underwear. So
That is
it's been a topic of conversation at the Seymour table, certainly with our kindergartner and in the halls at the elementary school. So once again, our school librarian at the elementary school is awesome, and this has
Wonderful.
been so much fun to see our reading promotion evolve in this way. So lots of
Great.
stuff. Moving on to the musical, our musical production of Matilda was hilarious, wildly entertaining. The troupe, as led by Mr. Prosper, did an outstanding job. Attendance at these shows was through the roof. And certainly there are myriad factors as to why that is. But one thing that we are very proud of is that we made the conscious decision as a district to cover the cost of the production so that people would not be charged to go,
Yeah, that's
Good move.
which is great. And as it was articulated to me by a parent, for years, I've been going to every showing and paying to see my own child for 4 different showings. And so that really set it home to me. But the donations, the voluntary donations were extremely strong.
That's
And we had record participation, so it was a win-win. But the musical itself, the kids did an amazing job. It was fun. It was laugh out loud, entertaining. So really proud of the work they did.
Awesome.
Another great production as led by Mr. Prosper, and great set work as led by Mr. Gotham and all the kids involved with it. We have been,
Question,
yeah, by all means.
the donations are being used for.
They go to the
trips?
drama club.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and they brought in around $3,000 in donations.
The music club is getting some too, right?
Yes.
Between music and drama club, yeah.
That's awesome.
So lots of activities in both buildings, as you can imagine. March is a time of busyness. So at the elementary school, the elementary students were treated to a preview of the musical, which was great. They always enjoy that. Students also have been to Cornell Cooperative's Eline Farm for a sugaring demonstration. They've had staff from Fort Ticonderoga presenting different artifacts from the fort to the fourth graders. This is a precursor to their field trip that they will take to Fort Ticonderoga later in the year, which is great. We had our family math night, which is our second annual family math night. It was highlighted in today's Enterprise. Lots of cute pictures of our kids and pictures of our staff. And then moving forward, we have some fun things for the kids before the end of the March month and the start of April break. NCPR's Beat Authority will be in the elementary school to throw down some beats for our kids for a dance party in our annual spring luau, which is ever popular amongst the elementary staff and students. So lots of fun stuff there. Appreciate all of those events and the people involved with them. Middle high school, similarly busy. Our sixth graders went to the Olympic Training Center to watch recent rhythmic gymnastic competitions, which was, I'm told, very entertaining. We had a craft fair over the weekend, which had over 70 vendors and drew considerable funds for the senior class. So excellent job to that class and their advisors in putting on a top-notch craft fair. On Thursday of this week, our junior students are taking a trip to Proctor's Theater to watch a prediction of Les Miserables. And that is a venture that is sponsored by the Educational Opportunity Fund. So we thank them for their continued support. And our eighth graders this weekend are heading to Washington, D.C., the annual trip that is supported by the Lucy family. So we're very grateful for their generosity. And then later in the week, our senior girls will be making their trek into the wilderness. This will be the third woods trip of the year. And we have a new staff member going as part of that crew. Our high school English teacher, Rhiannon Adsit, will be joining the students for the first time. So super pleased to have that happening. And then just as a final note, although there's been a bit of buzz in the school buildings about this, just to shout it from the rafters, congratulations to our valedictorian and salutatorian for this commencement class. Harley Cohen is our valedictorian for the senior class, and Jesse Marshall is our salutatorian. Both outstanding kids with wonderful academic accomplishments and myriad extracurriculars and other volunteer things that they do. So congratulations to them, and we look forward to hearing from them at commencement in June.
Oh,
Perfect.
wow, nice report. Very busy. So next is the information for the board. If you would like to take some time to look that over. It looks like the admin budget vote for BOCES is April 22nd.
It's
So-
a Monday, right?
Yes.
So take some time to look that over. 6A, minutes of the Board of Education was under consent. Moving on to personnel consent agenda. To approve the following items, which are included in the personnel consent agenda. 7B, appointment of physical therapist. 7C, appointment of long-term technology teacher. And 7D, additional spring coaching staff. May I have a motion, please?
Yes,
Second?
Second.
Who said the first yes?
I did.
Doug. Sorry. And Ron.
Any discussion? If not, please vote.
Six yes.
Moving on to our action items section. The first is the National Librarian Day. Recommended action, motion to acknowledge the April 4th, 2024 as School Librarian Day. May I have a motion, please?
Make the motion.
Ryan, second.
I'll second.
John? Any discussion at all?
Just honoring Caitlin Patnode, our middle high school librarian, and Kat Haney, our elementary school librarian, both of whom make their libraries a welcoming place for students and are always coming up with fun ways to engage kids. So thanks to their excellent addition to our
Yeah,
school
that's
district.
great. Please vote.
6 yes.
Next item is the bus proposition resolution. Recommended action. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the following proposition to be added to the ballot of the May 21st, 2024 budget vote. Resolved, shall the trustees of Lake Placid School District be authorized to purchase 2 68-passenger school buses and 1 65-passenger school bus for a period not to exceed 5 years at a cost not to exceed $41,000 per bus per year. May I have a motion, please?
Move it.
Make the motion. Second.
Second, Ron and Ryan. Any further discussion? If not-
Should there be language in there about the bond? Just the way that it,
No, that's just, I think that's just the funding mechanism.
yeah.
Yes.
Purchase.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
a
purchase. It's
purchase.
a purchase.
Yeah.
Upper bosses, they call it bonds.
okay.
Yes. Yep, like a bond.
If there's nothing additional, please vote.
6 yes.
The next item, special education, is information only. And I believe that that will be addressed at our April 16th meeting.
Correct.
Linking goals with agenda items, I have item number 6, finance under the budget, Dana's presentation. I have students first and foremost with Tim's report with the numerous activities that our students are doing and the field trips that they're taking. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? If not, if you think of anything later, please let Karen know. Coming up to the second good of the cause, Karen, any emails?
No.
Thank you. Now we're entering the adjournment phase. Our next meeting date and location is after our spring break, so it's April 16th, where we have our regular meeting and a potential budget work session if needed. Old agenda topics. New agenda. Tim apparently will be wearing a hula skirt at the luau. To let everyone know.
That sounds like a dinosaur on community day.
So that brings us to our, to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion, please? John, second?
Hey, I'll throw it out
And
there.
Ryan. And there you have it. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Unanimous out, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aye.
Excellent.
Maybe get to use the gavel.
There you go.